Sid Meier's Civilization IV is an old game, 15 years old to be precise. And despite some slightly less than stellar graphics and some mechanics that are a bit inaccessible to most people, I can confidently say that I like it just as much as Civilization V and 6, and maybe more in some ways. But I do think there is one Civilization game that completely towers above the rest. Ashes of Erebus. And I realise that that's not a full game, so shut up, go. Ashes of Erebus is actually a mod of the mod Rise from Erebus. Okay, that's not correct. Ashes of Erebus is actually a mod of the mod Rise from Erebus, combined with the mod Fall Further, both of them mods of the mod Fall from Heaven 2, which is a sequel to the mod Fall from Heaven 1, which was a mod for the game Civilization IV. Are you still with me? Yes, the original game was a mod for Civ 4 that was so popular, in a later expansion, parts of it got incorporated into the main game, in the form of the Age of Ice scenario. Ashes of Erebus, the probably most updated, most recently updated, if not most well-known, mod from the Fall from Heaven family, builds on the basic premise from Fall from Heaven. The world is a grim dark fantasy just emerging from after the Age of Ice, so... yeah, the Ice Age, basically. There are demons and monsters running amok, angels and devils, and the Armageddon counter is slowly ticking towards its completion, and it's up to you to stop it. Or, I mean, you could help it, that's an option too. In terms of both lore and gameplay, this mod is as absolutely massive as you could expect for something that's been in development for so long. So I'm going to divide this into, like, sections. So the first bit is, you'll just watch the video. The lore from Ashes of Erebus is dense. The original game was based upon a very long-running D&D campaign from the mod's creator, Derek Paxton, or Kale? And so the lore has that as its basis. 21 civilizations, new leaders, 7 religions, a magical and alignment system. All of this stuff requires broad and deep world building, which this game definitely delivers. And that was the basis when the mod was created, so Fall from Heaven 1, back in 2005. Since then, things have only expanded. New modders have come along and added their own spins and takes, their own civilizations, leaders, mechanics, units, the whole gamut, you name it, it's been added in. This means the lore for this mod is something of a labyrinth. It has many twists and turns, outright contradictions, never internally consistent, and large swathes of it just left completely blank. But that's fine for a game like Civilization. You're constructing your own narratives through play, and maybe informed by the backstory provided to you, but maybe not. You can do whatever the hell you want and make whatever stories you want to make. That's part of the fun of the game. The blank slates left by some of the later modders for sure allow you to truly make the story your own, or to fit into an already established world if that's what you want to do. The world is deep and fascinating if you care to look into it, if a bit tropey for sure. I mean, this is fantasy. But in fantasy worlds, I don't know, I think that sort of thing is basically okay. Enough about all this boring reading stuff, I want to actually play Civ. Fine, there is certainly room enough for that too. The mod is broad, really, really broad. Civilization IV was already more inaccessible than its modern iterations. Now imagine a game system in constant development for a decade by different groups of people with different goals, aims, and impressions, all building on an already complicated base. What I think I most appreciate about this mod is that it also builds really well on what's already there. You can avoid magic almost in its entirety and still feel part of the fantasy world, with the dungeons littering the map and all of the fantasy races you'll encounter. Or you could solely invest in magic and make that the reason that you win. Building the Tower of Mastery is one of the win conditions of the game. And on that point, there are a bunch of new victory types. You could build the Big Wonder, the Altar of the Luonotar, the Progenitor race. See, I said it was tropey. Or side with the Devil and bring him to the world and win by being the Usher of Armageddon. Or side with the Angels and bring them to the world and win by being the Usher of Armageddon. Or, plain and simple, just kill everyone else. And there are a bunch of new leaders' traits and unique units and buildings to make sure that every run feels completely unique. The replayability of this mod is better than even the original game, and I come back to it more frequently than any other Civilization game. I think part of that is because it likes to play with the mechanics of the original game in a very sort of inventive way. You have races that don't use food, races that use production in interesting ways. I'm going to go into that, so don't you worry. Ashes of Erebus manages to do something that few mods can do in a meaningful way. It represents almost a total revolution in the way that the game is played, while still maintaining an integrity of the original. Therefore, you do feel like you're playing a different game, but at the same time, it still feels like the Civilization game we all know and love. And each civilization feels diversified in a really cool way, with each having their own playstyle that fills a particular niche in the broad remit of the mod's content. The most similar to a basic warfare civ from the base game, in my opinion, is the Hippos. Horse lords and steppe mercenaries, a bit like the Swiss Guard crossed with the Mongols. They don't have too many fancy additions, and so can make a nice introduction to the mod's more esoteric features, whilst still basically playing like a regular civ. On the weirder/weirdest end of the spectrum is probably something like the Risen Empire of Patria or the Legions of Datesh. These are undead empires, but that's not just flavour, they are pegged as fallow civs. They don't require food to expand, which means, what do they require? People. You have to go around collecting people to add to your undead hordes, and it's a very different experience. This, you would think, forces a more aggressive playstyle, and in some senses it does, but you can get by for other victories perfectly fine with either of these civilizations. You have civs like the Shaim and the Ilians, who terraform the area around them and get unique bonuses from regions that others would find intolerable, so hell and ice respectively. They are both trying to bring evil dead gods into the world, the Ilians by mantling the god of winter, and the Shaim by breaking the boundaries protecting the world from the devils that would harm it. You have the Banor, godly crusaders who verge too far into fighting monsters and start to become them. The Lunun, the only primarily seafaring civilization, pirate-inspired and even starring Guybrush Threepwood as their hero. The Svaltalfar are bad dark elves, and there's the morally grey wood elves faction too. You have greedy mountain dwarves called the Khazad, and you have the tinkering hill dwarves, the Luciab. Extraplanar beings can be invited into the world for you to control, so Mercurian angels, fiendish infernals, and the remnants of the Ice Age can be called back to the world after being thought dead in the form of the Frozen. All of this combines to really give the Civilization IV experience a total breath of fresh air. This might as well be a wholly different game. It might as well be something like Fallen Enchantress, which actually the original mod makers ended up working on, so no surprise. I'm done now. For lovers of modern culture, Ashes of Erebus is utterly fascinating. For lovers of fantasy worlds, Ashes of Erebus gives you lots to engage with and mold to make your own. For lovers of 4X games, but especially Civilization games, Ashes of Erebus, through its weird development, presents loads of really novel riffs on what we expect from these sorts of games. I'd implore you to check it out if this seems at all interesting to you. The downloading process can be a bit of an awkward mess. The official download is now 3 years old, and the developer version is now functional and was updated as late as November, but you have to do some weird coding stuff to actually get it to download properly, and there's frequent bugs, and there's no, like, helpline, so it's a bit inaccessible, but I mean, if you can get it to work, it is really, really cool. And so that was Ashes of Erebus. If you like the mod, if you like the things that you saw while I was explaining what the mod was about, there's a link to the forum post that sort of generally explains how to download it and what the mod's about and everything. And I don't know, it's just really fascinating to me, this little mod that started as being such a small thing like 10, 15 years ago. And now it's this huge, sprawling project mass of building upon and changing. And I don't know, I find that sort of stuff really fascinating in internet culture. But yeah, if you like the video as well, please give me a like or a subscribe. Leave me a comment if you like this sort of content. I have a few ideas for more modding culture style stuff, but then I also have, similar to my older videos, the whole philosophy of video games. And actually I was thinking of doing a video for Vampire the Masquerade and how that relates to existential philosophy, which I know I've done now probably like 2 or 3 videos that reference existential philosophy, but it's very interesting to me. So if that's your cup of tea, definitely do stay tuned. If you like Vampire the Masquerade, which is a great game with the sequel coming out pretty soon, I have a video on that, hopefully going to be out within the next, hopefully within the next month. I know I should be a bit more consistent with this stuff, but with everything going on, it's hard to find motivation to do some certain things. I mean, I've just finished my uni degree, so plenty more time to do stuff like this while I look for jobs. Anyway, thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you very much, and goodbye. I'm just going to cut this.